very much and good afternoon. This afternoon we're going to be talking about communication skills. We're going to be looking at improving our communication skills. We're going to be looking at communication in business, in your personal life. We're going to be looking at written communication, at verbal communication. We're going to be looking at a full range of skills that will help you communicate better. The skills that we're going to be looking at apply, doesn't matter what you're doing. And we all communicate. We all communicate every day. And the real issue in business is it's not what you know that matters. It's how you communicate what you know that really matters. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. How to improve your communication skills. We've got a number of rules to look at. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to tell you a small story. Some years ago, the lady who does our cooking and cleaning came to me and she said, can you help me? She said, I want to try and work at the weekends. She works for us during the week, Monday through to Friday. She said, I want to get work at the weekends. Can you help with some advertising to get work at the weekend? So I said, sure, I'll give you a hand. So she and I sat down together and we produced an advert that she was going to put out in the local shops. And the advert said this: excellent maid available, good with kids, trustworthy, can cook, hard-working, available now. For more details, etc., etc., etc. Now, please don't all rush at once. She has work, okay. But what was interesting, she took this advert and she put it into a number of local shops. And within one day, we'd had 15 replies, which was pretty good. Unfortunately, 14 of those were from maids looking for work, and only one of them was from a maid, from an employer who was looking for a maid. Now, I was sharing this with my wife at dinner. We always, dinner's a very important time for us, and we go through the stuff that happened during the day. And I was sharing this with my wife, and she said, oh, they're so stupid, aren't they? Can't they read, you know? And I was agreeing with her, of course, because she's my wife, you know. Until I realized that we were both breaking rule number 1 of communication. Rule number 1, and the most important rule in communication, is this: the responsibility for the success of any communication rests with the communicator. And in that case, that was me. The responsibility for the success rests with the communicator. So if the communication has broken down, it's my fault, nobody else's fault. If communication's not working, it's the responsibility of the communicator to make sure it's working. Now, this is an interesting rule because so often we break this rule. And it's too easy to break. I remember I was sitting with a friend of mine in his office. We were having a chat and a cup of coffee, and one of his team came in waving a piece of paper. And the guy said to his boss, my friend, he said, boss, I've got this memo from you, but I don't understand what it means. Can you explain to me what you mean in this memo? So my friend looked at him rather angrily, and he said, what do you mean you don't understand what it means? It's in English, isn't it? And he said, yes. He said, and you understand and read English, do you? And he said, yes. He said, well, you go away and you read it again, then you come back and you tell me what you think it means. I thought that was a bit harsh, personally, and I said so. And, you know, he was breaking rule number 1 of communication. The responsibility for the success rests with the communicator. If my friend's subordinate couldn't understand the memo, it was my friend's fault, not the subordinate's fault. Now, this, of course, raises some interesting challenges here in South Africa, because we've got 11 official languages, and we so often communicate in the language that we're comfortable with. But in actual fact, we should consider perhaps communicating in the language that the people who are receiving the communication are more comfortable with, because that is our responsibility to do. The responsibility for the success of any communication rests with us, the communicator. Sometimes we expect people to read our minds. Sometimes in communication we think that we need to be mind readers, and we do sometimes. I remember not so long ago my wife and the family were sitting in the lounge, and my wife said to my little daughter, she's young, the youngster in the family, and she's at that lovely age where she still wants to do things, You know that age, it doesn't last long, does it? But she's still keen to do things. So my wife said to my daughter, darling, won't you go into the room and get my glasses? They're on the table. So my daughter says, sure, jumps up from where she's sitting, rushes to the lounge door, and then skids to a halt like a cartoon character on the wood floor there at the lounge door, because she has no idea where to go. Because she was asked to get the glasses from the table on the room. Now, which glasses, which table, which room? I mean, who on earth would know? You see, we so often expect people to read our minds when we try and communicate. We do this at work, too. We think or we expect people to pick up, to read between the lines, but we shouldn't expect that. We are responsible. The responsibility for the success of the communication rests with the communicator. That's us. So, rule number 1.